Welcome to Driven, the Unscripted Success podcast, with your hosts, Mike Menino and Nariman Hamden, bringing you insights and stories on achieving personal, professional, and financial success.
Hi, everybody. This is Michael Menino, and welcome to Driven Unscripted Success podcast. Today on the podcast, we're interviewing professionals who share their experience with you, the audience, how they got to where they're at today, and zooming from the beautiful island of Naxis. Where are you at right now?
Hi, from Miami.
Miami, nice.
Yeah, I'm in Miami.
That's a nice area. That's a really nice area. She's a speaker. She does sales. She does coaching, and I can't even get into all the stuff she does. She came from Venezuela to Chile to Miami. So
Yes.
I'd like to introduce Mrs. Naxis Prado.
How are you? Thank you so much for the invite. I'm very honored to be here.
Well, thank you. It's kind of you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to share your experience and wisdom with all these fine folks on the other end. Could you do me a quick favor? We did a little bit off camera, but could you explain where you came from, how you got to where you're at today?
Yes, of course. You want the short version or the longer one?
Yeah, let's do the short version.
You go.
You got 20, 30 minutes on this one because
For sure.
you got one of those lives that could go on for hours.
I think so. I will try to keep it short for the audience. Well, my name is Naxis. I'm an engineer. I'm a product leader and also like speaker, mentor, and coach. I have more than 13 years of international experience. I've worked across Latin America, specifically in Chile and other countries, of course in the US, and I have been, a lot of experience with other clients in Europe. Most of my experience has been in product management, leading cross-functional teams, helping to build these digital solutions in fintech, real estate, tourist, e-commerce, energy, like many different industries. I used to work in Accenture at some point, so this is why I have a lot of experience with a lot of clients. I started my career in Venezuela, where I got my first degree in civil engineering. Later, eventually, I moved to Chile for things changed in my life. And eventually in Chile, I worked many years in civil engineering. Eventually, a lot of things that happened, I got into technology, specifically into product management. My first job was in a fintech startup. And I just fell in love about technology and about products, about, that possibility of creating this innovation and, something is like fast-paced. And after that, I started this, self-discovery journey about what do I wanted to redirect my career, about trying to live with more purpose. And along the way, I have the privilege to join to a great group program called Stanford Ignite. And I also later decided to get my second degree in engineering in Chile. That was a little crazy, but I made it, so it's good. And today I work as a senior product owner and Royal Caribbean Group. I focus on different type of solutions. I have experience working with mobile applications, with cloud solutions, with AI-driven enterprise systems. So I have a little bit of everything, and always working in this intersection of the innovation, about working with the final users, working with the business goals, and also to decide about what is possible in technology. So for all this experience and having, the experience of living in different countries, different cultures, and adapting and being resilient, I noticed that what truly, fools me is trying to help others to grow. And since 2020, I've mentored and coached different professionals across, more than 20 organizations so far, either like ONG or organizations that promote STEM. So I have a couple experience here in Miami. And the last one was in a conference called WITCOM for FIU. And that was a great experience. I was talking with different like engineers, different early, professionals that are going to graduate into the value of mentorship. So I have talked about different topics in the way. And some of these talk or mentoring has been either Spanish and English, most of them about like tech, about confidence, and about what I feel is like reinvention means. So I've been there. I started over twice, and I learned in in different ways how to try to lead with curiosity and how to show up with purpose.
Gotcha. That's awesome. Fantastic. There's a lot of competition in what you do. Wondering what sets you apart. What do you do that's different than most, and what comes easy to you?
There is a great experience. I would say that what I think that could be my strengths now, at some point I thought that could be my weakness or my, my blind spot. And I think is that, that skills about resilience, about, being adaptive, about innovate. I think that for my experience working with different products across different countries and different culture, I think I have learned how to, work with different personalities, work with
There
different
you
people.
go.
And I think this part about being able to, listen, to like organize
Yeah.
ideas, to communicate your value is something
Hmm.
that it's hard sometimes to learn. It's not something, it's their skills are not necessarily learn that you learn in the college. So it's something that you have learned with life. And I think definitely
Experience.
it's something that makes me, set apart. Other part is because for my background, more like analytics thinking as well in engineering. I also translate that to building products because I always have to, try to keep in mind about data and about taking decisions, data driven decisions, which I think sometimes we forget when we take decisions in corporate. So I think that two things I would say that and probably other more stuff, but I would say that could be a good summary about what I I perceive like something different. Other thing that I would say is that for my experience about trying to position myself, changing of industries, I became a little more empathic and I more connection with other people. So I try to be very, this is why I dedicate all this time, all these events. Most of them started like volunteering work because I definitely feel like I really wish that when I was trying to, refocus my career, I had more, more people, more mentor to make questions to get this like a little more of orientation and also to like help me to build more confidence on myself to think that I'm enough for this, like changing this, like belief in this. So I think it's something that I definitely try to, try to do it. And I think when I'm working with teams, I always with people, I think it's something that I try to keep in mind to try to, try to be more intentional, more careful about, like kind of care about people in general.
Well, it's a good. When you take care of people, they'll take care of you too. But it's reciprocity. It's really a great idea. If someone listening to the podcast wants to get better at what you do, what suggestions, what tips would you give them?
um Sorry, I didn't, the audio lost a little bit. Can you repeat the part, Mike? Sorry.
Sure. No problem. If someone wanted to get better at what you do, what tips and tricks would you give them? What suggestions would you give them?
Okay. You think about in general or like more want to get better in product management exactly what my role is?
There you go. Probably, well, give me one in each.
Okay. I think a good way is to do assessments. I call it
There
like
you go. Yeah.
self-assessment of that.
Yeah.
And that will be somehow evaluate yourself, try to be honest to yourself about how do you actually performing, how are you showing up. I think that is, trying to be more separate yourself for your feelings and try to be more objective, like an external person is really helping. If you're
Hmm.
having, if someone having trouble with that, I would definitely try to look for external person to sort of like give this perspective. I think after having this assessment, probably I would say, okay, what things are you doing good? What things maybe are not working? And what things, have you learned? And how do you keep moving now? So I would try after that, you would, you have two options, trying to think, what things you're not doing that well or not working and trying to put an action into that. I would suggest you not to put crazy big actions because when you decide to do something so big, sometimes most of people, get paralyzed and don't do anything. So I would think about, like two actions, small actions that you can do this couple next weeks. And after that, I would say two things: work in the things that you probably not, not being that good. And the other
Hmm.
point will be actually an action for something that you're really good at. And I feel sometimes people forget about working in their strengths, which sounds so
Right.
basic, but I think it definitely, for me, it was a life-changing experience. I think at some point, this is why the decision I decided to transition into other industries and other roles, because at some point, sometimes people force themselves a lot to try to, fitting into a role or into something. And sometimes their natural skills and strengths are not setting in that role. So I think if you want to, shine and you want to thrive, you need to learn yourself, and you need to be very cautious about what things are, what do you do the most. I got a little, at some point, at that point when I was doing this self-discovery, I got into, there was, it's a test. I think it's Gallup is the name. And I did it, and they just mentioned like 40 strengths. And these 40 strengths, they put it in order. So 1, 2, 4.
Nice.
So it was funny because I felt like, at that time, we did it with coworkers. And I think my first one, it was it was something that like I took something and I put it amazing, and positivity, inclusivity, something like that. And the last ones were like patient, like that was literally, I'm like, this is me. And it was funny because my coworker that we used to work very close, he got patient one of the first ones. So this is why we work in team. We were so good about it. So after that, I tried to focus myself into creating a career that was a little more focused into what is already my natural strengths and the things that I'm like setting it. It doesn't mean that, you can have your hobbies and your things, right? You need to fully change your career. But I definitely think it's healthy. This is how I got into product management. It was not backwards. So I actually, when I was civil engineering, I felt that I have a lot of skills. I love to talk, to connect, and also like the analytical thinking part. So what career could mix this? And this is how I got into it. So I did it. I think sometimes people do it backwards because they study a degree. They believe they have to just stick on that forever. And I definitely, at least that you love it and you're good at it. But I think there is, people evolve and people change. And I think give yourself the opportunity to
get better.
Change and evolve is something that, is important when you think about success or about growing in general.
Exactly. So everybody's had challenges in their careers and life. Doesn't have to be in career. It's in career and life. What is one of the challenges you've had to overcome over your career and life?
I have many challenges.
Well, let's go with the big ones, and how'd you knock them out of the park?
I'm going to think, I would say one of the first, one of the biggest challenges that I had, it was to, especially when I got my first role in a second language, in English, because of course, it's not my native language. And I was maybe insecure in the sense of I have this mindset of oh, maybe I'm not enough for this role, or maybe, someone that is, speak English, they will do amazing. So I felt like, I had that, especially because my environment, or the things that I read and everything, it was kind of that way. So I realized that, most of the challenges, the best way for me to overcome it is to, think about what is the belief that I have about it. What is the narrative that I'm giving myself to that? And I feel like, many times I'm so I felt like my first step to overcome this challenge, it was I need to change this narrative that I have, because I need to believe that I could, I'm going to succeed in a role, and I'm going to be able to translate all my skills and my experience. And for me, it was not only in a junior role, I feel like for me, it's I have the experience, I'm senior role, I definitely, it would be the same but in another language. So I literally have to brainwash a little bit. I have to work a little bit. I think in a slang way, you would say a little delusional about it. Don't to listen anyone. Because
I don't know about delusional.
Yes.
Not delusional. Mindset. You had a good mindset. And like you said, self-assessment of yourself. What are you good at? What are you bad at?
Yeah. So, and after, I would say, that what I did is after I still working a little bit in the mindset, and of course getting the confidence came with action. Getting with action. Sometimes with people is no, you have to believe you're the best. I mean, it's true, the mindset is true, but I think when you start getting action into that goal, you also build your confidence. So I think it's not backward. It's not I have confidence from the air. Mainly it's it's good sometimes do things with even with fear, and just being having the courage or be brave to do it, mainly because at least on my case, I try to think about the biggest picture, how will I feel after, trying to overcome these steps. And I think so yeah, probably one of the biggest challenges was that, to being able to adapt and succeed in another industry, in a place where I didn't have no connections, no resources, it could be very like, paralyzing. But on the other hand, I really, try to think about what is the best that could happen, like how did it look, how this picture looked, and I was trying to focus on that. And another tip that I would be is like, not all the feedbacks are good. And it's something that I learned in the bad way. Like, I think that, it happened to me. I remember one of the other challenges that I had internally as well is because I feel that I don't always match what is expected about someone that work in tech. So I'm very guilty. I think most of my, hobbies and things are like modeling, photography, like artistic part is something that is so fun. I enjoy it. And I feel like I normally, I always have this, this energy with team. It's like part of who I am. And at some point when I start working in tech, I saw leaders that the personalities were so different to me. And I felt like maybe I have to, start changing how I'm portraying my, I would start, maybe I have to be someone else to fit here. But later with time, I start seeing, other different people, and I'm like, oh, maybe, maybe I could just embrace this. And I remember, this is a very interesting story. When I got an interview at some point with a company, like many, many years ago, when I was thinking about engineering, but maybe like business, I was figuring out. And I remember they reject me, even when they told me in the email, like, you have all these skills and everything is perfect, but we believe, like, a feedback is like, we believe that you could just control your energy a little bit. And that was HR who told me that. Of course, I was so bad. I was crying. I'm like, Dad, oh my God, like, I really love this company, this feedback. And my dad was like, you can change your energy. This is who you are. And I'm like, oh, okay.
Right.
So after that,
go find somebody that likes your energy.
I know. And later when I changed into technology, into another company, a startup, the first feedback performance review they give me is like, no, like you match so well with the culture because your energy is super high all the time. The team is so motivated. Like, this never happened before. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I think moving to the right place is definitely important. Like,
I agree with you. I agree with you wholeheartedly. Sounds like things are going pretty well for you in your business. Looking forward to the future. Wondering, have you ever created a passive income, and how would you do that?
Well, I think that at some point I did it in Chile as well. Like, because at that time you have a lot of time working in like the corporates, and I think I had that the bank's requirements to do it. So at that time I have the opportunity. I got like a couple of like properties that I still have it even when I'm not living there.
Awesome.
And there's something that it's a little tricky sometimes with real estate, because sometimes the markets change, and sometimes what they pay you still to pay back. So it's just a little tricky, but I think that was at least I think one of the benefits that I noticed, no matter the country, is whenever you're like higher in a company, sometimes like you have this type of benefits, there is good to use it, while you're in the company. And I think sometimes people forget about it and they remember until they're like entrepreneurs. They don't have it yet. So I think I would definitely, is something that I would try to considering, if for people that's working in corporate, try to take advantage of this, because maybe in the future you decide, maybe you could stay all your life in the company or like, incorporate, but if at some point you decide to, get your own business, just the rules are different than people that's entrepreneurs.
The rules are different. That's true.
Getting to know
the rules are different. That's a good way of saying it.
Yeah, it's super important.
Nice. All right, wrapping up the interview, what do you got exciting coming up the next 6 to 12 months?
Wow, it's a great question. I think I feel like after a long time, I decide to actually dedicate more time into the mentoring, into coaching, into the speaking. And I think I'm very excited about it. I will continue with my work in product management, which is something that I'm so passionate about and I love it. But I think this, I finally realized that, okay, maybe this is fully my calling. I've been trying to not to get in too much, but I think this is a great, a great time for me to like, it definitely feels like it's the right moment to me to, dive more on that one. I feel like a lot of other people have told me yet. So I think I'm very excited on that. I'm very excited about seeing how this is going to evolve. It's very, something I've done naturally, but I feel like now I wanted to do it more like formally. So I'm excited for that. What about you in the podcast?
Me?
Yeah.
We buy apartment complexes. We got an offer in on a storage facility, and we just concentrate on passive income. I want to buy things that just keeps kicking out money. That's all I want to do for the rest of my life.
Definitely, it's an art.
It is an art. You gotta know your market. You gotta know your product. You gotta know the people in the area. You gotta know all that stuff. But once you do and you're comfortable with it, and you purchase, you're doing it too. We're just doing it on a grander scale. We like multifamily. We like buying apartment complexes or storage facility units because there's multiple people paying in with you. If someone moves out, we call it single family housing. When you get single family housing, someone moves out, you don't have rent for that month or maybe even the next month. Before you re-rent it. With storage facility or apartments, there's always money coming in, and you plan for the people leaving and coming out. So it's a lot better, faster, and easier. You put a property manager on it. With a property manager on a single family house, it takes 10% of the house. But a property manager is a lot less on a multifamily because there's more people doing it. So it's just better, faster, and easier. I love passive income. I love passive income. I keep saying I try and make my money. For that. That's a guy. You know what? You're right. I love passive income. I want my money to be like little green soldiers going out to make more money. That's what I want. That's my new objective.
Like we need to create some, like ChatGPT custom.
I'm gonna get that T-shirt. I'm gonna get that T-shirt. People are gonna love that. That's it. I love passive income. That's great. You taught me something, young lady. Hey, listen, this was a great interview. I can't thank you enough for taking your time out to share your insights. How would people contact you? What would you like to talk about? How would you like to share them to get connected with you?
Yes, of course. So, if you like anything about what we talk now, if you're interested about maybe reinvention in your career, like more like creating a career that have more purpose and more aligned, I would suggest you to contact me on LinkedIn as Naxis Prado. I will be happy to connect and see which other opportunities of collaboration could come. Thank you. Right, I'm so grateful. I definitely have to, recognize about how interesting is your podcast in the sense about like there is a lot of things that we don't see in the other people's journeys and path, and I think having a space like that definitely give visibility about all these different challenges and like different solutions and tips. And it's super interesting because everyone's so different. Everyone have like different ways to solve it, and I think I love it. Thank you. I really wish you a lot of success in the podcast.
I thank you enough. I had one girl that I did an interview with. She was at 9/11, and she said she saw part of an airplane fall down. And she worked at the Trade Center, and she saw part of the airplane fall. She goes, "Oh, I'm out of here." You're the one that lived. You know what I mean? So it is amazing to see people doing what they do, and a lot of people really don't realize how good they are at what they do. You got to, I know a lot of engineers. And you've got an amazing personality for that kind of engineer. And that's a very rare combination. So keep up the great work, young lady. It's awesome.
I really appreciate it. I really appreciate it because I feel like it's part of like authenticity, and this is part of like my internal goal purpose as well, is like giving visibility about it, especially with women and girls that always think that engineering have to look that way, and not necessarily is that way. It's just a career. It's like you can literally, and it's funny because sometimes I'm working engineer and later, I have these Miami big things. So I don't know.
It's awesome. It's worse.
Of course, by the end, you could decide whatever it has sense for you, like no matter how it's perceived, So I think it's something I'm very passionate about, and I'm so grateful. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you so much. We're going to say goodbye to everyone. We'll talk to you later, and thanks a lot for being on the podcast.
Thanks for listening to Driven, the Unscripted Success Podcast. Want to share your story? Apply to be a guest at drivensuccesspodcast.com/guest.